an excellent segue to the next panel titled Digitalization in Complex Systems, led by Karolinska Institutet, where we will continue discussing how to solve complex data problems. I'd like to welcome the moderator for this panel, Jan-Olov Höög, Professor of Medical Chemistry, Department of Medical Biochemistry and Biophysics at Karolinska Institutet. Give him a warm welcome. You can start here if you want to, by introducing your panel.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that I'm here. I will go on a little bit on this subject with our panel, and we entitled it Digitalization in Complex Systems. And the subtitle of this event as such is Collaboration and Conflicts. And when you're coming into the healthcare sector, it is a little bit of that. You heard this first plenary lecture. You need collaboration, but at the same time, you need to take the entire group with you into this. And you have to educate the personnel working in the healthcare sector. One guy at our central part here at the hospital once told me, some of us, and that also including the first lecture here, we are working with space rockets. But the hospital side, they are trying to get the T4 running. And here you have the conflict. And that we will discuss in our panels. And my panel, can you please enter? We have Erik Herlenius.
Hello.
We have Richard Löfström and another Erik Nordell. Thank you. And please stand or sit as you would like, as you find it better. And I pass it over to you. I think it's better that you present yourself. So please, we start with Erik Herlenius.
Hi, I'm Erik Herlenius, professor in pediatrics, also head of research and development in the pediatric emergency and infectious diseases at Karolinska Hospital. I will talk a bit later what I'm doing as well.
And then we take the order, Erik Nordell.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Erik Nordell. I am working at Ericsson, more precisely at Ericsson Research, where I'm a manager focusing mostly on radio research, but here, of course, we will talk other things today.
And finally, Richard Löfström.
Yes, Richard Löfström. So I'm working with health data at Karolinska University Hospital. I have a background as a general practitioner and health informatician.
Thank you. And maybe I should stress that very often people are talking about Karolinska, and especially if you're coming outside the Stockholm region and outside Sweden, they mix up the Karolinska Institute, that is the university part where you are right now, and the Karolinska University Hospital, that is the hospital part. But we are working very closely together. So sometimes it doesn't matter, but here in Sweden we are two different organizations. So, then we go on. Erik Herlenius, you developed some digital systems. They are fairly advanced. So tell us more about these, and especially, how will your systems integrate with the rest of the hospital systems? Please, Erik.
Well, I mean, first, thank you for Jan-Olov, who gave an absolutely fantastic presentation of what precision medicine is. I am also working in precision medicine, but a slightly different aspect. See if I can have a slide here, potentially. Yes, here. Well, precision medicine, you now know what it is. There are genomics, proteomics, metabolomics, but I would also state that there are clinicomics, combining everything we're doing at the hospital, integrating multiple sources. For that, of course, you need a multidisciplinary collaboration here with KTH and Karolinska Institute, where I am, but also have a foot in the Karolinska Hospital, of course, because you need a tight collaboration for this, of course. So, you know, the patient is the focus, of course, and the patient is the goal. I mean, we want to salvage the patient and make life better, of course. As a doctor, we use different tools to do this. I'm a pediatrician, so of course now I have a sick child here. And, well, we listen to the patient, we see the patient, look at them, we smell, we feel the patient, and we actually taste the patient as well. Diabetes mellitus is honey tasting pee. That's where it comes from. You took the diagnosis by tasting pee. But today, of course, we have some more sources of information. A lot, basically. And we have revealed the mechanism how a lot of diseases, the causes and the progress of it also, which enables us to do precision medicine, as Jan-Olov talked about. But when you look at the patient, this is a dynamic procedure that occurs all the time. And when something in an infection, for example, in a baby starts to occur, the first thing that happens is not that you produce a lot of proteins that you then can detect in the blood. That can take 12 hours, 24 hours. The first thing that happens is that the body reacts. You change your pulse, you change your respiration, and heart rate variability, etc. And those are very early symptoms, subtle symptoms that are hard to see. If you look at the patient 24 hours per day, yes, then you might see some of it. But we can do this by recording dynamic. And then you can actually use this to have a risk reduction strategy and do an intervention and feedback. We have now data that show we can, 24 hours before you discover sepsis and life-threatening diseases in the clinic, discover this through the dynamics of already available monitors, basically. We have these monitors all over the hospital, and the provider says, why don't you use them? Because it's not integrated with the system. And we will have a discussion of how to enable that, to make it better. Because using these systems, if this would have been in place, now we're looking at retrospective data. If this would have been in effect prospectively, directly at the patient bed, we will salvage several lives a day in Sweden using these systems. So of course, we have enormous possibilities. Now let's do it.
Okay,
yes.
Then we move further. Then Rickard Löfström, you are a representative for the Central Information Technology Department at the Karolinska University Hospital.
Yes.
So what's your view on this? And how can we take steps further?
Yes. So I can just agree with both the moderators this morning and Professor Jan-Olov regarding the need of data and how to use this data for the benefit of the individual in so many ways. And as Karolinska University Hospital, every large organization providing healthcare is continuously working with health data in some way to improve the tools that the everyday, activities experience and how to use these tools. So what we are doing at Karolinska University Hospital at the moment is to both look at all the systems that which are carrying relevant information. I mean, to look at the ecosystem as a whole. Maybe we have more than 700 systems at Karolinska University Hospital, each of them dealing with individual data. Most of them more like administrative sort of data, and then we have 35 to 40 systems really concentrating on the clinical data that we're handling. So we are at the moment, and supposedly always have been and will be, retailoring this information to try to sort of adapt and tailor the investigations and the treatment design for each patient within the hospital, as well as providing this data for research and further understanding of all those patterns that we see continuously developing in the human body. So it's a tight collaboration between the hospital side and the Karolinska Institute, the research side, but this is always improving, and I'm at the moment involved in a task force actually looking at further catalyzing this process of data. Yes.
Okay, I'm coming back to you later, but Erik Nordell, you are representing here Ericsson, and by that a little bit of the outside view of this. So how can you see these challenges here from your point of view?
Well, of course, you can see this is very complex systems that we talk about. And what I can see is that perhaps we can use a bit of what we are learning and how we work, not at least, for example, in Ericsson, we are also creating very complex system. I mean, the whole mobile platform is a very complex one. We have a very big R&D organization working with this every day. We are also collaboration with a lot with academia to get the research in from there. And basically, what we are doing, first of all, we are basing our systems upon open standards. The mobile systems, they are created upon 3DPP. That is where the whole industry is in there. I know there is lots of standardization in this industry as well, but there is also a lot of proprietary systems working in isolation. And how can this be opened up in a better way? I think that's one of the things, to really open up the innovation. That's a major challenge, I would say. But also perhaps a bit how we work, where we have a very clear R&D organization within a company like Ericsson. And then you have more of the production side, where you actually are building the products in the end. And here I see this is in medicine. It's done a lot in the universities and academia. It's also done by individuals within the healthcare. But where is the R&D really? This middleman, so to speak, where you actually work everything together. Of course, we have the IT department and so on and others, but it's not done in the same way that I can notice anyhow.
Yeah, if we can play, I have a question directly for you. If we can play a little bit for the near future, if we let Ericsson take over our innovation department here at the University Hospital, what will be the first step you will do then to get this working from your outside point when you see what we are struggling with here?
Right. Not a simple one, perhaps, but of course, try to understand the problem picture is the thing, of course. Nail down the problems, of course, the big picture, and perhaps start small in some areas where it's easier to start to work on. For example, we had a little chat here before. We were talking about the X-ray department where you do the imaging and so on. Perhaps that's a good place to start. You have something tangible anyhow. You are creating pictures. You should understand them, and of course you can use AI, which I hear a lot of here we talk about. So perhaps that could be one place to start. Not start, of course, only in the whole hospital everywhere.
Okay, thank you. I jump to you, Rickard. Here in Sweden, we are a fairly small country, but still we cannot have one medical electronic system for the hospitals. We have different parts. What's your view on here?
Yes.
And what will we do here in the Stockholm area?
Well, we don't have one system for everything because there is so many different aspects of healthcare and medicine. So it's really, when you talk about one system, even if you look at other countries where they have large healthcare systems and they say for these 20 or 30 million of people. We have one system. Even they don't have one single system. It's a complex ecostructure for health data and functions and laboratory X-ray, as we mentioned, and different. I mean, as Janne pointed out, different kinds of omics, etc. So it's a broad field of information, and many systems need to adapt to a number of clinical situations where you need a particular kind of information to be presented to you, to be able to proceed with the healthcare you are providing to the patient. So it's both a complexity question, it's also a legacy question, because in Sweden we have been very early on with IT in general. We have been very mature. Even in the 70s, we started building different systems, and even you got economic support even for developing your own system, not talking to another system. So we have a history in Sweden, which some countries are just jumping over and starting with, look at what is the best system and the best working procedures in the world, and we would just take that and just implement it because we didn't have anything before. We had just word by mouth and paperwork and so on. So now we can have IT, and they could jump over these 3 decades of work that has created our legacy in Sweden. So that's one challenge. So the complexity and the legacy is really challenging how we could reform and both renovate and design our systems to better tailor the main processes in healthcare, but also to add this innovation that we talked about to facilitate. I mean, where are the actual problems? How could we collect all the IT people and decision and resources and the knowledge about the problem in one room to discuss this and to actually have a solution, and when we leave the room we should be able to know how to do the next steps.
Okay, then Erik Herlenius, you are one of these that developed a digital system, fairly advanced for your purpose. What would you like to see to have your system work in a broader way from Ericsson or your central department that you are actually part of, or the same hospital when you're working?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned here imaging, which is of course the low-hanging fruit. Making AI detection of images has now been proven and are already in place. Johan Hartman has for breast tumors, working fine. And that is Karolinska Institute is the research and development department. Because Karolinska Hospital, they do healthcare, and of course educate people, but the education and research is done by Karolinska Institutet. So tighter collaboration there, which is better now, actually, it's going on. But what I also would need is for people, as you said here, Janne, that you need to understand the advantages and possibilities with AI and precision medicine. I mean, I've been working on dynamic parameters. As I said, doing this today, implementing it, we will save hundreds of lives per year, just in Stockholm, and in Sweden and the worldwide, many, many more. But to implement this, you need an understanding, and I'm a medical doctor. I know basic research a lot, and I know some little mathematics, but I'm not good enough on this. I need collaborators. So my proposition, at least, I would like to see, especially like, I mean, in Kista, you have KTH is sitting side by Ericsson. Mm-hmm. But the gold in Sweden right now is healthcare and the advances we have. So I would like to see to place part of KTH side by side here at the Karolinska Hospital, because we need integration with engineers and big data handling. We have that inside of lab for genomics, etc. But for the clinicomics, we need them here as well. So maybe we should start. We have the old hospital. We could buy part of that one, place Ericsson here, and then place KTH here, side by side to the Karolinska Institute and hospital. That would be a good hub and a good possibility to start, I think. And then there's a lot of legislation to implement everything and so on. But I mean, starting on the big things, I think that would be a good way to start.
If we pass it over to Erik Nordell, why are you not in the healthcare sector? And also now you are invited more or less here.
Well, we are, of course, in the outer side of it, in that sense that we are providing the communication systems. Yeah. But in the healthcare as such, well, it's basically not our core business. So I think that's the simple answer anyhow, why we are not there.
But communication and security is super important because, I mean, you said shared cloud setup, but I mean, you're expert in security. And I mean, that is also what's needed. We're going to hear later on here regarding legislations and all, because the personal integrity. We're now working for a new European GDPR regulation that's coming up. But the knowledge from Ericsson in security would also be very much helpful.
No, but of course.
And that's one of your core areas.
Yeah, sure it is. It is.
So you have a link now. Come to Karolinska.
Now you are invited.
Right. Then we should start to buy buildings here, what I understood, and together with KTH. I will notice that.
You're soon convinced.
And very often when we discuss things like this, I think it's great. Sometimes it seems technology is not the barrier, it's the human being. And you two are working pretty much that to have the people with you. How do you see, how can we come over this barrier? Erik or Rickard?
Yeah.
Rickard, well, because there is a barrier. And how are you working with that? I mean, to get the people, shall we call it, the floor in the hospital? Some told me when I did a survey 5 years ago, don't introduce another idiotic system that doesn't work.
The tricky thing is also we have total different regulations. I mean, Karolinska Institute is a university. We're aimed to educate and to evolve and innovate, basically. Yeah. While the healthcare system, I mean, you've seen the press right now, we need to save money, we need to save money, we need to save money. We're going to make more healthcare with less resources. That's magic with the knees, basically. But understanding, of course, that innovation, I mean, for example, this imaging by breast cancer, instead of having 2 doctors having to look at a picture, you have an AI first look at it, and then a doctor. So you save 1 doctor's salary. So if you speak money-wise, maybe we Karolinska have to speak that doing this will not only save lives, it will also save money.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way to...
We were talking about that as well. I mean, before here, that for example, remote monitoring, that they actually can move the patients home earlier. You will save a lot of money, and then you can monitor them remotely. And then, of course, you need systems and technology to be able to do that, to keep them safe, so to speak. So.
But that's really part for digitalization, and then you have this communication.
Yes.
And I think today the communication is the challenge, to have the home system talking to the hospital system. Very many of the big corporates, they say, of course we have an interface, until they have to show up.
No, of course.
And you, Rickard, it seems a little bit to be an international challenge, this, because I visited Boston last week, and their major hospital, the Mass Brigham Hospital, they are going to build their own system, not to buy an electronic medical record system. Is that the way we are going internationally? The hospital has to do their own systems.
Well, it's not either or. It's. I mean, when you are looking at sort of developing your information management, you need to look at what kind of systems are there. Are there good adaptive systems capable of managing rather many tasks and has been sort of tried out in many different healthcare processes, etc. Maybe you can have that as part as your solution. But as I tried to point out earlier, it's more like a bigger ecosystem of data, logics, and presentation and interaction with the users. So if part of this can be used by a flexible system, it's interesting. If they have decided, I don't think they are developing exactly everything that needs to be dealt with. It's just that they have a view that we need to really have smaller sort of tailored systems for each task, and then we take responsibility for the whole ecosystem. That is more or less the approach many large organizations and healthcare providers are moving towards. Yeah. Apart from, having one big system that is supposed to cover everything, but you need to adapt it in every sort of situation and process, etc. So we're sort of moving away from the sort of proposal that we can solve everything to we need to take responsibility for different numbers of a larger numbers of smaller solutions being able to collaborate, and that is the core of the information handling and things like semantics and the meaning of information, that you can have many systems agreeing on what does this information mean in this context, and then maybe 10 systems need to adapt to that instead of the other way around.
Thanks. And I heard there are several questions from the audience, so please.
We have a very active audience, thank you. The first one is about bridging the gap between data scientists and business specialists. And it seems hard many times to transfer the problems to a data scientist. Who wants to address? Yes, Richard?
To bring them together. I mean, it's just like Professor Jan-Olov said
earlier. Are you doing that today?
I'm fairly new on the job, so I've just started seeing this, but I understand that this is the sort of mode of operation now. Bring these experts together, bring the people who knows about the actual healthcare being given, and bring the sort of technical side together, data scientists and everyone there, bring them together and let them design a solution and present this to the decision makers who also can administer the resources needed to make this happen. So if you can collect all these three factors, the expertise in healthcare and technical side and decision and money and so on, in one room, you can solve a problem. If you can't do that, it's very difficult to solve a problem.
It was what you were trying to design earlier, Eric.
Bring them together, sit together, because the mathematicians are fantastic, but they have one and zeros. We have patients that sometimes it's hard to that in translation. What are their needs? And then you need to sit. You need to sit and drink coffee together. You need to sit on the same place. That's why we buy the old hospital. We put KTH and Ericsson here.
Yeah. And there's a question for you, Eric.
Then we're on the physical place where we can collaborate. Tightness is good. Personal relation is super important here also.
Yeah.
And there's a question around this. What are the showstoppers for that kind of innovative solutions? How can we move even faster is a question from our audience.
Well, part is money. Karolinska didn't have the capacity to store data, so I store data in my own Karolinska Institute servers. That costs me, it's millions. That's peanuts for a lot of people around here. For me, that's a lot of money. And of course, I have to hire personnel, etc. So money is one part. And then you need a strategical decision from the top of the Karolinska Institute, the top of the hospital, to understand, hey, this is the way we should go. They've done that partly with Medtech lab, and they have images, etc. But they need really to go, not just sit. Maybe we wait half a year. Strategical decisions from the top boards and money.
And there's also a question, I think a really relevant one, just for us to understand the cost of data protection. I think this one is for you, Eric. What's the percentage, in ballpark figures, of investment in your info systems on security? Just so we get an understanding of that.
Okay, it's very hard to give a figure on it.
Is it 50% of an investment?
No, it's not 50, but it's of course a substantial cost to make them secure all the time. That is for sure a big investment.
And then there was a question or a comment to you, Richard. Are you aware of the Nord e-health project to integrate electronic health records across the Nordic countries?
I have contacts there. I've not really been in their meetings, but I know of them.
Good. There are more questions, but we are running out of time, so I leave it to you, Jan-Olov, to wrap it up.
Yes, I think we are running out of time, and I think to have to say thank you. And what we see from this discussion, there is more collaboration than conflicts in the near future. Can we take that? That's the sum up?
Yes, yes.
So, thank you.